I'm laying on the couch watching episode 3 of Non Non Biyori. I've decided I'm gonna try to watch it until I either like it or it's over. I call this technique vegging out. I learned it from Nate, the best guy ever. He said him and his friends would veg out and watch Bob Ross all day back in college. So I'm gonna try to veg out and watch Non Non Biyori until I like it, while cradling this bottle of cheese balls. I really don't understand the appeal of this show. The characters all have really boring, weirdly inconsistent personalities. The dialogue is all cliche, the scenarios are cliches. I can always tell what the punchline's gonna be before it comes. I can always tell what the emotional climax of a scene is gonna be. And it's not executed that well. The backgrounds look nice, but the animation's nothing to write home about. Not that big a fan of the character designs. The humor is completely flat. The slice of life, like the just calm stuff, is better than the stuff that tries to be funny, but it's like I could be watching anything else. Any other show of this nature would be as good or better than this one. And that's all fine and good, I just don't get why this show in particular has such a huge fan base, and why this one is on so many favorites lists. I just don't get what sets this one apart, because it just feels like the same shit. And the episodes feel unbelievably long. I just finished episode 3, and it felt like I watched 2 or 3 episodes. But we'll see what happens if I keep going. I'm gonna watch it till I like it, or until it's over. I was watching the minutes-long cold open of episode 4 of Non Non Biyori, and I got bored and kind of zoned out, and I started making up my own characters. Like, Renge being smart made me think of another smart young character, and then like having an older character who's not as smart and is really frustrated about it, and the fact that he can't like beat up the little kid because he cares about them and they're small. You know, he feels wrong, but he's like confronting him with how stupid he is makes him really pissed off. So then he starts trying to reflect and becoming a better person, but he has to like, you know, he's not smart enough to do that even-headedly. He's kind of being, you know, pressured by the fact that the person trying to get him to change himself, the person who's smarter, is such a little kid that it makes him finally feel bad about how shit he's been as a person over the years. That'd be a fun couple of characters, I think. Back to watching Non Non Biyori. Oh god, you can't even see me anymore. Ugh. So I'm on episode 4. Renge's been hanging out with this other little girl. It's right about getting to where there's probably going to be a plot twist, which was pretty obviously going to happen from the very start. I think it's telling that when they gave Renge like a little friend, then she's like completely normal looking, like brown short hair, average little girl. Like her character is that she's a normal little girl for Renge to hang out with. That's what her personality is, what her place in the show is. Whereas Renge is this weird cartoon meme thing with the bright purple hair and the giant things coming out of her head and the fucking big yellow shit and the deadpan expression and the mouth that curves downward and the voice that's obviously an adult doing a weird impression of a kid. I'm currently looking at a shot of her face that is lasting like upwards of 20 seconds while sad piano music plays. But like, I think the fact that when they give her a friend, it's like such a plain basic character that it's like it makes it feel forced and obvious what's going on here. Now Renge's crying. This shot has been holding for an exceptional amount of time. And it's been slowly zooming, and like you can see where the lines that they drew her face with, like we're slowly getting that digital zoom effect where you can see between them a little too much, if you know what I mean. Anyway, this episode's going exactly where I thought it would. You know, I don't mind Renge's personality that much. Like, I like, you know, the deadpan lolly archetype and everything. She's not written badly. It's just that the way that she's designed and also having that personality just makes her feel like this weird alien meme creature. Like, she's not an actual character. She's, like, designed from the ground up to be this anime cliche thing, which feels weird in a show that otherwise is about laid-back, lackadaisical life. The fucking cat wants out. I gotta go let the cat out. I'm in the OP of episode 5 now. I just had some random thoughts. This is largely unrelated to Non Non Biyori, because this is a Silverlink show, but it was making me think about Kyoto Animation. And it's funny, I think a lot of people have the impression that I'm a big Kyoto Animation fan, when I'm really not at all. I really am a Yamada Naoko fan, the director of K-On! And Tamako Market, and co-director of Hibike Euphonium, and I'm also a fan of like Lucky Star and Haruhi, like from their early days, but most of the stuff by Kyoto Animation that's by the main guy, his name's slipping my mind, like, has this way of characterizing characters where they're like, they all feel like forced memes to me. Like, characters always have like this very distinct one-note personality that causes them to do little mimetic motions all the time, to make certain faces or do certain little loopy things. Like, that's why I was saying that they're great at animated GIFs back in my Phantom World video. Like, it's like they go into a show like trying to make memes out of their show somehow. And that's kind of what Renge is to me in Non Non Biyori. None of the other characters really give me that impression. But Renge, everything she does is like something that could be a meme. Which is why I find it so hard to take her character seriously at all. I gotta say, the one thing I've consistently enjoyed about this show is the older brother of the two orange-haired girls. He never talks, you never see his eyes, but he's just down for everything. They put him into stupid, weird scenarios, and he just sits there and takes it and doesn't say anything. He's definitely the best character in the show. You know, I was thinking about the fact that, I have a real problem with the phrase forced drama, and I've been sort of rallying against it. But there's a bullshit made-up term that I use all the time that basically means the same thing, which is unearned pathos. Which is where I feel like a show tries to make you feel something, or tries to present a dramatic scene without actually earning the ability to do so. Like, where you've got a show where maybe you don't feel all that strongly for the characters, but then the show starts putting them in scenarios where it feels like you're meant to care already. For the sake of, you know, the feels. This show's not too bad about it, but there's these moments sometimes where it's like, it tries to have these poignant, feelsy scenes, but it's not a poignant, feelsy show, and I'm not so attached to anything that I could get that feeling, you know? Whereas I think a show like Hidamari's Sketch, for instance, like, really or Aria would be a good example. Those shows have this sort of light feeling for most of them, but then when they get into the pathos moments, they're very earned because you've watched the characters go through evolution, and those moments come at the end of like some grand realization about themselves. Like when, when Yuno is struggling with the fact that she doesn't know what to do as an artist, and like it doesn't hit us with that as like a dramatic thing until much later after we've been watching her struggle with it for a while and then sort of, get into some more poignant emotions with it. Or, anything in later seasons of Aria. Whereas in shows like this, there'll just be moments where they just suddenly try to be dramatic in a show that otherwise is mostly dumb. Like, right now I'm looking at the screen, and the 10-year-old girl who looks like an adult has a room full of plushies of the one senpai girl who she's obsessed with. Her whole personality is that she's obsessed with senpai girl. And it's like, in a show where the characters have these weird, flimsy, goofy comedy personalities, for the show to occasionally try to be all emotional out of nowhere just feels really weird and wrong. I mean, I guess that's what people mean when they say forced drama, though that phrase gets overused so much that I honestly don't think it means anything most of the time. But I do like the phrase unearned pathos. I hope that one catches on instead, because I think it describes something more specific, whereas forced drama is overly applicable to too many different things. I'm halfway through season 1. I just finished episode 6. I started from episode 3. It feels like I've watched 6 episodes, but I've still got 6 episodes to go for season 1. Then there's season 2. Plenty of time for me to learn to enjoy this show. So far, I would definitely say I have an easier time with like the slow burning slice of life episodes than the ones that try to be funny. Episode 6 was like a whole episode about the one girl is a scaredy cat. She has to go try to scare the others in the woods, but she ends up scaring herself. Never seen that plot done before. I'll give credit to a scene at the start of episode 7 when Renge was making all this stuff and drawing and stuff like that, and nobody else understood her tastes or like how she was interpreting the things she was making. And then eventually she gets frustrated at everybody else for not getting it. I can appreciate that. The rest of the episode was kind of whatever. There was a part where a rabbit headbutted a gate and trapped Renge and I think her name's Hotaru in a rabbit pen. And I had a feeling something like that was going to happen at some point, where there would be something so unrealistic or like almost supernatural that it would just kind of be like a groaner. I hate when a show like this like is almost always realistic, but then it just has like 1 or 2 times where it just completely goes off the rails just for the sake of a joke. And it's like, it just makes me feel like they didn't care that much. I'm generally bothered as well by the lack of attention to detail in this show, just in minor ways. But there's too many little specific pedantic examples. It's just the kind of thing you notice when you're not having a good time anyways. I think I've resolved that Komari is easily the worst character in this show. She's just... The joke is always that she tries to act her age, but she's not. She doesn't. Her personality and appearance make her seem younger than she really is, and she's hung up about it. Pretty common character trait in this kind of anime, but it is all she has. It is all the jokes. Every time she has a scene, it's the plot of the scene. It's never funny. It's just very tired. There's this scene where Renge draws a picture of Komari, and it's like this photorealistic great drawing, and they're like, "Whoa, this drawing's amazing, you should enter it into a contest." And Renge's like, "What? There's nothing artistic about this at all. This isn't what I wanted to draw." And I was like, "This is Jesse Wood, Endless Jess." He's always saying how whenever he makes something that he thinks is completely stupid, everyone loves it. And when he makes stuff that he actually likes, then people always say it's not real videos. You know, this show has a lot of really gorgeous background art. It's definitely the most appealing aspect of the show, whenever they go out and adventure through the wilderness. I'm a big fan of, like, wandering around rural areas. I've only done so much of it myself, but I love watching it in shows. But it's funny because I don't enjoy any of the, like, stuff happening. I'm just, like, into the background sometimes. And it almost makes me feel like I'm nostalgic for other shows I've seen that I could get this effect from. Like, watching this makes me nostalgic for Aria or, like, My Neighbor Totoro or something. You know, just, I like getting to see all these backgrounds, which is, like, the biggest thing that makes it so I can keep watching this show, because if it had no appeal, then I'd probably not be able to keep going. But I do really like the backgrounds. Alright, easily the best scene in the whole show just happened. The one orange-haired girl goes to ask her brother if he was done peeling something, and he's just in his room ripping this amazing guitar solo, like, playing some, like, 70s fucking heavy rock on his guitar. And, like, he's trying to talk to her, and she can't hear him over the guitar, like, you can't hear his voice. It just cuts him off the whole time, and that's the whole scene, and then it's just over. The older brother is by far the best character in the whole fucking show. He makes me laugh every time. It's the only thing that works. Otherwise, though, this episode has introduced this new character. It's like some other girl who lives in the neighborhood, and they're making it out like she's just been there all along. Like, she introduced herself to Hotaru, because Hotaru's, you know, the new girl, and she's like, "Oh, I live next door. How the fuck have you not been showing up this whole time? Where has she been?" Tell me if you guys get this too. Whenever I'm marathoning anime for, like, a particularly long time, after a certain number of episodes, the top part of my brain just hazes over. It feels like a blanket is laid directly on top of my brain, right here in the front. Right in this top front area, and it's just like, it just becomes this hazy feeling, and I think that might be what the vegging is. I think I'm officially vegging out, aside from the fact that I keep turning up my camera and talking. I still can't get over the fact that this show, I'm on episode 9, I think, and, like, in the last episode, like I said, they introduced this new character, and they've seriously just, like, she's just there now. She's just around as, like, a normal character. Even though, like, it was one, like, they've had other characters they introduced, but they had, like, a reason. Like, you know, they introduced a candy store lady. Like, Renge went to a candy store, and there she is. Oh, now we met this new character. But this girl was literally just like, I live next door. Like, she doesn't go to the same school as them, but she's just been around, apparently. Everyone knows her. She just is now a regular cast member. It's so weird. So the cultural festival segment had some okay, funny scenes. They're just kind of random and out of nowhere, though. Whoa, there's a fucking CG Slinky on my screen right now. It was weird the way they, like, forced all of the characters into that scene. But man, this new girl, Konomi, I think is her name, is too powerful. I've had this long time fascination with power structures in anime comedies, where there's usually sort of a chain of victimization throughout the show, where like certain characters are always victimized by other ones, and there's a sort of hierarchy to it, where whoever's at the top is the only person whom no one else can victimize. So for instance, in Working, the manager is at the top. She can victimize the vice manager, who otherwise victimizes the blonde guy, who victimizes Poplar, and, you know, some of them have multiple people who they victimize or are victimized by, but there's always the one person at the top. In Gintama, the person at the top would be Matsudaira, the leader of the Shinsengumi. Like, generally, everyone else has someone who can take them down, but he's at the top. But in this show, there was not really much of a hierarchy. It was more of just a four girls comedy show that sometimes had the comedic victimization element to it, usually Komari at the bottom getting victimized by everybody. But then they introduced this new character who just kind of is above everyone. She never seems to fall prey to any jokes, and she seems to be able to, you know, put everyone else down or put them in their place. It's like they introduced the most powerful character at random suddenly. She's like the ultimate... Yeah, like I would say she was a Tsukomi, but she's not really. She's just kind of overpowered, and she came out of nowhere, and it's weird, and I don't like it. By the way, if you want to veg out on the couch all day watching anime like Non Non Biyori, get a Crunchyroll subscription using crunchyroll.com/digibro. It makes me $5 when you sign up. It's how I'm watching it. It autoplays each episode after about 5 seconds, so you don't have to move. Well, so far I'd say episode 10 was the one I enjoyed the most. It's a very straightforward, linear story about Renge and the candy store owner, and how she likes Renge. She took care of her and she's a baby, and now they hang out. It's pretty adorable. I would definitely say that they have the best, like, chemistry out of any of the characters in the show. And that episode did the sentimentality thing better than most, in that it let you know pretty much from the start of the episode it was going in that direction. And then it, you know, built up to what was going to be the sentimental moment, and even then, the sentimentality wasn't that hammy. I honestly thought there was gonna be some kind of reveal that, like, Renge's parents were dead or something. Because I don't think they've mentioned if they're, like, what they do now. Unless they're still just working in the fields like they were when she was a baby. But, like, I really thought it was gonna build up to something like that. But no, it was just a cute little story. It was okay. You know, Hotaru, she's like, she never does anything. She's like a reactive character. Like, everything that she does is in reaction to what other people are making her do or say. And the jokes are always just painfully obvious. Like in the episode where she had the closet full of Komari dolls, it's just like, well, we know how this scene's gonna end. The Komari dolls are gonna fall out. Then just now she was arm wrestling with Natchan, and they were like, Natchan never loses his arm wrestling. She's beaten everybody. She's like the... You know, even my brother can't beat me. I even beat the candy store girl. There's no way you're gonna beat me. And then, she beats her. Yep. There was nothing more to the punchline than that. It was just exactly what it looked like it was gonna be. Mm, I don't really get the whole thing about her being in love with Komari anyway. Like, I don't remember why she fell in love with her in episode 1 or 2. But, like, throughout the show, they, like, will remind you that, like, she's in love with her. But then there's no display of it, really. Like, they don't... It's hard to tell why she's still in love with her other than because this her character. It's just really odd. About to watch episode 12. The show took place over a whole year. That's how long it's felt so far. The last episode had them eating some, what was it? Pork miso soup? It's making me hungry. It's reawakening my weeb senses. I need to eat some Japanese food. Maybe after this season's over, I'll suspend my veg state so I can go eat some Japanese food somewhere. Anime fans, the world over, tell me, are you really entertained so much by the idea of a cute girl who can't really cook and her friends trying to eat her food that you have to reuse the joke in every fucking show? Is the demand for this kind of joke really that high that several long scenes in the same show have to be dedicated to the fact that one cute girl can't cook and the other doesn't want to admit it and continues to eat the bad food? Is this humor to someone? Help me out with this. Well, I finished season 1. My feelings are overall pretty lukewarm. I'd give it a strong 4 to a light 5. There were a couple scenes that were kind of fun. A couple scenes that really pissed me off. Overall, nothing too strong in either direction. It was mostly just kind of a meh experience. There's a lot of, elements that should be strong. Like, the directing is very solid. It's got a lot of the little creative spark that a lot of Silverlink shows have. The script isn't too bad. It's from the same writer as the K-On! Anime. But I just don't think there's enough going on with the characters or concept to make it interesting. Like, there's just... I'm all for this laid-back, we're just in the countryside doing whatever kind of show, but, like, there's so little chemistry between the characters and so little personality to each of them where, they're all pretty one-note. Renge has her fun moments. I would easily say she's the most entertaining character to watch. But she's also kind of inconsistent where sometimes sometimes they really play up that she's like a little kid, and then other times she'll seem to have more knowledge or maturity than some of the other characters in little ways. And, Candy Store Owner was okay. Definitely not just biased because she's a blonde with an attitude. Okay, I lied, I am. And the side characters were all just kind of there. I just didn't feel that strongly about anybody in the show. Nothing about it made me feel like I really super want to keep watching this. The biggest appeal was the backgrounds. And the only side character I did really like was the brother, just because they would use him so sparingly, and it was always like a weird, hilarious joke when they did. So I think he was a well-done joke throughout the whole show. But otherwise, still pretty lukewarm. Can't really say that I like it yet. But there's an entire second season, so I can keep vegging out on the couch and watching until I like it. Though I might take a break to go eat some Japanese food. Well, my plan to get Japanese food fell through because I forgot that every pair of pants that I own is in the wash right now, except for the pajamas that I'm wearing, which have no pockets. And it's 90 degrees outside, so I'm not going to wear a jacket to carry my shit around. So instead, I just made myself some ramen. It's just mushroom flavored ramen, no additives. Let's start up season 2! In episode 1 of season 2, Renge's sister gets a cell phone, but in season 1, didn't they call her on a cell phone in order to invite her to come to the cultural festival? So episode 1 of season 2 got off to an okay start. It definitely felt like they recognized all the things that were the best about season 1, which is focusing on the more laid-back, comfy elements as opposed to the comedy, focusing on Renge since she's the most likable and popular character, and focusing on the backgrounds because they're still gorgeous. Did they push this a little far into the sentimentality range by having an entire minute and a half of just shots of backgrounds while the characters sing their alma mater? Yes, maybe. I got kind of bored at that part and my eyes glazed over and I forgot what was happening. But otherwise, I'm curious if it'll keep that direction or if it's just going to be like season 1 in the long run and switch between more comedic elements that fall flat. We'll see. So, I was really confused about the timeline of this series because the first episode, I was under the impression that they were starting the next year of school, but it was kind of confusing because they were also making it out like it was the first time that Renge had gone to school, and the what's her name, Natchan, was getting a new uniform, but it was the one she had already been wearing, and I just didn't think very hard about it. I was just like, what the fuck? And then episode 2 starts, and it's like at a period where Hotaru was still new, and so because the show's called Non Non Biyori Repeat, and what I didn't realize is that it's literally started back from the beginning of the timeline, it seems, and is going back through the same year, filling in more things that they had done. Interesting decision. Yeah. So I had to go look up to make sure I was correct about this whole repeat concept, which I was. But it's funny because I was looking at Mal reviews to figure out if, if it was. And the first review was like something to the effect of like, oh, it's a genius way to explore the first season from a different angle. It redefines what anime is and can be. And I was like, oh. Hidamari Sketch, a similar show, aired all of its episodes out of order in terms of chronology, I believe across the whole first 2 seasons. The idea being that each episode had a date and you could figure out the order based on the date. And there's a fun game to play with Hidamari Sketch where you watch each episode on the day that episode takes place. I don't think they kept doing that in season 3 though, because the story became more linear where there was like more things happening. But I could be wrong. I haven't seen that far yet. Yeah. And Tokagatan was aired entirely backwards. and Haruhi was aired out of order. And knowing things about later episodes changed the way you thought about earlier episodes. Just saying. So episode 2 did end up having a pretty big comedy segment, but it was actually probably one of the most creative comedy parts in the show, where they were playing a game where they had to use pens to knock rulers into each other and knock them off a desk. It was a little fun. The rest of it was Hotaru and Komari hanging out. And it was more of a reason for Hotaru to be in love with Komari than most of the shit that's happened so far. So far I'd say this has been better than Season 1, but not by like a significant amount. Just it hasn't pissed me off yet. We'll see how it goes. Some lessons I've learned. Yogurt gets warm really quick when it's not in the fridge. And you shouldn't try to eat 2 things of yogurt in the same day, because it's not good. So I took a break for like 2 hours after episode 3 of season 2 so I could listen to the new Procrastinators podcast and dick around and eat something. And fucking a huge torrential downpour started in the meantime. So hopefully that won't be too fucking distracting. Or knock my power out. Oh hey, it's raining in the show too. What a coincidence. It only just now occurred to me that my goofy, pedantic complaint earlier about the cell phone in episode 1 of season 2 was entirely justified by the repeat nature of the season. So that was my fault. You know, I would definitely say that the scenes where they just have Renge acting like a little kid and being adorable are the most enjoyable scenes in the show. Mostly just because I like kids. They're adorable and fun and hilarious. So, those are the best scenes. Renge dressed up as a Teru Teru Bozu was fucking adorable. I feel like I should give some mention to the music in this show. It's not bad, but it very often goes for this like super sentimental, sort of sappy feel. Especially when they do the whole like emotional moment, panning shots of landscapes, pretty music, which I'm not into. I mean, I don't mind it that much. It doesn't do anything for me, but it also isn't, you know, it's not painful. The music's not bad. I've seen some shows that do the same thing, but with just outright, like, music that just makes me want to fucking die. So, this one's not bad. It's just like, Where it can be annoying is in the comedy scenes. When it plays like a song that's like too hyperactive, then I'm just like, alright, I get it. We're in a comedy scene. We don't need this. Yeah. I gotta say, the vegetative anime watching brain thing that I described earlier, combining with the downpour of rain, which gives me low pressure headaches, definitely makes my entire brain feel numb right now. I feel like there's a vice grip around my brain. Oh. So episode 5 wasn't bad. After finishing it, I just went and chugged 3 ibuprofen, so hopefully I'll just go into a coma and, like, perceive the rest of the show without really being awake. I wanted to make a quick note that, it's funny that, Komari is voiced by Kana Asami, who's the voice of Yuno from, Hidamari's Sketch, which is a show I've been a long time fan of. And just every once in a while I hear Yuno in her voice, and it always trips me out. She's been in a lot of shows, I've seen her a lot, but like Yuno's the main character that I really liked from her. Yeah, whatever. I forgot to mention this a couple episodes ago, but I really want the candy store lady's tracksuit that says Real Money Talks on it. It was awesome. The inside of a pomegranate is fucking freaky looking. I was thinking I like the voice of Renge's older sister, the one who's in high school, who's from Tokyo. I looked it up and she's voiced by Fukuo Misato, and I was looking through her roles and like, it's interesting because there was a handful of them that I knew, but none of them really sound anything like this character. She was a Yoshika from Strike Witches, who sounds nothing like that. So, if you know any other roles of hers that sound like that, let me know. It's more of like a gruff, husky voice for this character. I gotta say, I'm kind of into this whole live vlogging a show that I'm in the middle of marathoning idea. Ordinarily, I'd probably tweet a lot of the things I've said, but I would tweet way less of it, probably. It's nice to have an easy way to collect all the random thoughts I have while watching a show, in a way that's easier to find it all and it'll still be around. Like, I did that with like live tweeting Kimi ni Todoke, and then I made like a tweet story thing out of it, but like no one's ever gonna look at that. Wish I'd had this idea back then. Although for that show, most of it would have been me screaming through every episode of Season 2, so maybe it's better I didn't have this. So I'm on what must be like Episode 8 of Season 2, and that girl, the character Konomi, I think is her name, who showed up late into Season 1, she also like hadn't appeared at all in Season 2 until now, and once again, she's just there. I don't know if I missed the line where she was like, I was out of town or something, like, because, you know, we're retreading the same timeline, so maybe she didn't show up until this point, like, for a reason. I don't remember seeing a reason for it, though. It's so weird. Man, I don't know what it is, but ever since those ibuprofen put me into a mild coma, these episodes have felt a lot shorter. And they had this whole episode about Renge trying to learn how to ride a bike. And the whole time she keeps falling on her bike over and over again. And no one at any point tells her to put on a fucking helmet. In fact, at the end, all the girls are riding their bikes. No one wears a helmet. I don't know, it just seemed weird. Man, in this episode, Konami's playing with a cell phone. And when she talks really excited, it suddenly occurred to me that I'm pretty sure her voice actress also played Poplar from Working. Could be wrong about that, but she sounds exactly like her in this scene. Well, I did it. I finished both seasons of Non Non Biyori. I definitely enjoyed Season 2 more than Season 1. I'd give it like a light to decent 6. So I guess Operation Watch It Till I Like It kinda succeeded. The biggest strengths of the second season over the first is they got way more out of the supporting cast, who are all pretty great, and they gave a lot more time to Natsumi as opposed to Komari. Komari is always boring, Natsume is usually fun, so I'm glad they made that sort of reversal. Honestly, I think the biggest problem with this show is that I really think Hotaru and Hotaru and Komari are just boring, which is half of the 4 main characters are really the most boring characters in the show. So once they focused more on the supporting cast, most of whom is pretty fun, I really like Renge's older sister, the high school girl, who barely was in Season 1, but she got a lot more to do in Season 2. The candy shop owner is great. Just generally, it's a strong supporting cast. None of them are annoying. Oni-chan is the best fucking character in the show still. So yeah, and there's also just a lot more of the humor worked for me. There were a lot more moments that made me actually laugh out loud. Nothing that made me completely groan like certain parts in Season 1 did. And more of the good... Sorry, there's like a post-credit scene happening, so I'm trying to see what it is. More of the slice-of-life comfiness. I still don't think I understand like how the show is so like well beloved amongst like anime fans, cuz like I've been seeing, I've been on like a lot of as you all probably know, I look a lot at people's opinions of shows, and like I really see Non Non Biyori being championed as like the best slice of life show of the last few years. People like it's in a lot of top nines and stuff like that. It's a lot of people's favorite slice of life show, and I don't really get that. I really think that there's a lot of other ones with much better characterization. Um, a lot of other ones that are much funnier, have more going on, um, or are more beautiful. Like, I mean, this show has a very modern aesthetic that makes it, perhaps easier to get into, but comparing it against a show like Aria is like, barely a contest, and it has a lot of the same feels, but Aria goes so much farther with its characters and narrative and setting. So I don't know. It was okay. Not sure I get the level of praise that it has, but I do think maybe like younger audience. I could easily see someone who maybe the people who love it haven't seen that much of this kind of show. So if this was like your first slice of life show, I could see getting into it. If maybe you haven't seen a lot of these jokes done 100 times the way I have, or some of these character archetypes done 100 times. If you're not annoyed by by Komari being like the most cliche imaginable character, then maybe it won't be as big of a problem. But in any case, I did it. I finally watched the whole fucking show. Probably won't be appearing on my best of lists for 2013 or 2015, but I did watch it just because I was trying to make my way through more of my lists for those years. So, list of shows I wanted to watch. So yeah, glad to finally have seen a show that people always talk about that I you know have never been that big a fan of, but was curious enough to check out. Peace.